How is it going, everybody? Happy Friday and welcome back. I hope everyone enjoyed the All Star break. It's Nick Marro here, as always, helping you break down tonight's MLB DFS slate on both DraftKings and FanDuel. Got a nice 11-game slate tonight that locks at 7:05 Eastern Standard Time. Been a few days off. I enjoyed the break. Didn't dig too deep on the All Star Game, Home Run Derby, or anything like that, but I know a lot of the guys did here at Occupy. But we're happy to get back to this main slate. So yeah, a lot to like today. With the long break, I think it is worth noting that a lot of good pitchers are going to be on today's slate today. So yeah, plenty of arms to like, a handful of stacks to like, some obvious, some not as much. But yeah, about to get started here, and I'll be here for the next half hour or so. So please like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Helps us get more free content like this out to you on a regular basis. And additionally, feel free to drop in your questions. Happy to answer any and all questions that come through in the chat. Um, but yeah, great to be back. Looking forward to a solid slate tonight. So, first and foremost, I want to start on the arms, and I will say this: there's really no weather to worry about today, which is obviously nice. It is hot across the country, humid in a lot of places, definitely favorable for hitters. Some spotty rain in that Braves and Cardinals game, but not enough to really matter. And that's a good segue here into our top arm on the board. That's going to be Sonny Gray. So, interestingly enough, he is relatively low owned. His ownership did come up on DK throughout the day. Earlier today, when I was looking, he was single digits over there. He is still single digits on FanDuel. But at 9,200 on DraftKings, really no surprise to me that he's going to start to get some love here. Priced similarly as a lot of the other top arms. And if you sort the whole slate by K per IP, Sonny Gray not always known as the top strikeout arm necessarily, but even on a slate with a ton of aces today, we have Sonny here with his 1.38 leading the board. So a little bit of an ownership pivot off of other popular arms like Garrett Cole, Hunter Brown. I'm sorting by K per IP. I'm sitting here pausing because I'm like, why is Edward Cabrera on the top of this leaderboard here? But we're just sorting by K upside. But yeah, he falls off a cliff. We'll talk about the Mets a little bit later. But yeah, Flaherty looks good here. He's been excellent. Castillo, don't love the spot here against Houston. But yeah, let's kind of break down one arm at a time here. I know I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Just feels good to be back. But yeah, we got Sonny Gray, 16.7 OF index. XFIP right around 3, which is that mark we like to see. And the thing about Gray, even when he's not getting a ton of strikeouts, he does a great job limiting damage, inducing nearly 50% of ground balls on hitted balls, and his K rate is around 30% now, which for him is excellent. Again, it reflects in the model as well. We had 16.7. We wrote this up a little while ago. I'm guessing the Braves lineup came out, and that is why he's now a 17.0. So Kalenic, Albies, Riley, Olson, Ozuna. So d'Arnaud instead of Murphy today. That's a slight upgrade. Rosario, Duval, RC at the bottom of that order. So obviously still no Acuna, still no Michael Harris either. And Olson's been cold. So yeah, this matchup isn't the best, but it's good enough to want to play Sonny Gray at low ownership, especially on FanDuel where he's only 6%. Yes, the Braves have upside, but they really haven't been the Braves, for lack of a better phrase there, over the past few weeks. Maybe that turns around, but I like Gray here a lot today, especially at the ownership. Next arm on the board here, super chalky, most popular on, or second most popular on DK and second most popular on FanDuel as well. That is Hunter Brown. For those who've been tuning in every Friday, it seems like he's always on the slate. I'm always very high on him. He's been excellent, really turned the corner over his last few starts. And I used to talk about how I thought data was going to be slow to kind of adjust to him. Because he started the season so terribly. But really, it seems like it's caught up, especially in a matchup here against the Mariners offense that strikes out as much as pretty much any in baseball, if not the most in baseball. I'd have to double check that, but I know they're way up there with Oakland. But really, really like Hunter Brown today. Some risk against Seattle. They've been hitting the ball a little bit better, but like I mentioned, they're striking out as much as anyone. Nice low implied total here, 3.57 runs. Slight favorite, too, against Luis Castillo. Or it's pretty much a pick 'em. But I mean, against an ace like that, it is certainly a good sign that that's a close money line. So really do like Brown here, but just keep in mind he is chalk. If you are playing large field tournaments, I would say there is some merit to stacking against him because the Mariners are going to be super low owned. You're getting a lot of leverage on the field as you'd be lapping those lineups that play Brown. But me personally, if I'm picking one side or the other, I do prefer to play Hunter Brown than fade him. On the other side of that game, we're seeing Luis Castillo popping towards the top of the model. Not my favorite play, honestly. In terms of OF index, like if we're talking about the top 10, like he's someone I'm probably leaving out of most of my lineups, especially because he's relatively popular. Not over owned if you do like him here, but Houston not a team that strikes out much against right-handed pitching. Castillo's been good, kind of inconsistent. Some of his worst starts have come at home this season. He did pitch against Houston about a month ago, May 28th. Had a decent start, 6 Ks, 2 earned runs, 5 hits allowed. So nothing really to blow you out of the water. But that's rare you're going to get a game with a high ceiling against this Houston lineup. So, yeah, they're still missing a few pieces, but they're patient. I mean, they really built that team to kind of work the count. And yeah, even their backups kind of follow that philosophy for the most part. So, Castillo, I mean, the model thinks he's good enough here. But for me, I mean, you see the K rate sub 1.0. K per IP. And yeah, I like him. I don't love him. And there's enough good arms on this slate. I think he could get away from that ownership. One piece of chalk today. I am a Yankees fan, admittedly biased. Most of you know that. But yeah, Garrett Cole looked great in that last start against Baltimore heading into the All-Star break. Even better than I was expecting. Some concerns around his velocity. It seems to have ticked up a bit. I mean, he's still not hitting the same highs he did last year in his Cy Young season, but closer to the median now, which is obviously good to see. Model likes him well enough. He is probably over-owned, though, if we're being entirely honest. But at 9K flat on DK, 9,600 on FanDuel, with that pitch count continuing to kind of tick up as he works his way into midseason form, obviously missed spring training with an injury. Tough to say he doesn't have one of the highest ceilings on the slate. Tampa's offense is good. A lot of young bats in there, though. Their K rate is a little bit higher than I expected going into today. So I'm totally fine getting to Cole, but just keep in mind, if you do go that direction, you're playing a piece of chalk that you probably need to differentiate the other parts of your lineup. So Cole and Brown, I like. Probably over-owned. Sonny Gray, I like. Probably under-owned. A little bit riskier. Castillo, good, not great in my opinion. I'm not loving it. And then Chris Bassett, I haven't talked about yet. I mean, Detroit to me is an underrated offense. I don't know if many agree with me on this take. But yeah, Colt Keith has been tearing the cover off the ball. They got guys like McKinstry, Perez leading off tonight. And the thing about Bassett is he's good, really good, but he does tend to struggle against lefties. So there is some reason to maybe pause there. But yeah, I'm just taking a look at the chat right now. Shouts out Jose. Great to hear you in here, man. We'll talk about stacks in just a minute. Jose, regular for the NBA streams, but awesome to see you're still around, man. Definitely appreciate it. So, Brian, definitely appreciate you being in here as well. Great to have MLB back. I was dabbling in the Summer League last night. We do have a plug for the Summer League slates behind the paywall, but obviously feel a little bit better and more confident playing regular season MLB than I do Summer League basketball. So, great to be back. And then Matt here, one of our beasts in Discord, definitely crushing MLB this season. Mentioning that Roth did just bump up the risk for Atlanta St. Louis, so we have to take a look at that. And if it does get delayed, he says it's risky, doesn't finish. So kind of sounds to me like Sonny Gray's still a fine option there if you want to go in that direction. And shouts out Chris Davis just joining in here as well. Yeah, KC, very interesting. They do kind of tend to disappoint, though. We'll talk about them in a minute here as well. Chris Flexen on the hill, former KBO legend for the White Sox, taking on the Royals. Another guy who kind of struggles against lefties. His splits have kind of evened out. But Frazier leading off is something I like to see. Massey in the middle of the order looks good. Obviously, Witt's matchup proof. Pasquantino, Perez looked good there as well. But let me just wrap up pitching first. So I've seen Manaya and Quintana both listed for the Mets today. So all morning it was Manaya. I'm sitting here thinking maybe I want to get to some of him. Then the past 2 hours it's been Quintana. It looks like it's back to Manaya now. So now that it's Manaya, I like him. I think he's too cheap for his upside here against the Marlins. He's been excellent. Obviously a little bit of riskier, but coming off 3 straight starts with 5+ Ks. 3 straight quality starts as well. He's just been outstanding, and you're getting him at a discount compared to a lot of the other arms on the board here. I'm not going to say he's as talented as your Coles or Castillos, Corbin Burns, etc. But at the same time, I mean, 7,600 for him against the Marlins on DK is very appealing to me. Ownership reasonable right now. I think as we refresh closer to lock, we're going to see him climb up. If he doesn't, I'm going to be loading up on him. And I will say on FanDuel 4%, even though he's 8,800, not as big a price gap between him and the other top arms on FanDuel. definitely something I want to be getting to aggressively here. Could it burn me? Maybe, but that's the type of offense I'd like to take chances against. So yeah, usually when I do these Friday streams, I try to give you guys a cutoff point if you're sorting by OF index for those that are mass multi-entering. For me personally, I think it would be around 12.0 today. Really nothing below that point I like, and I do want to just shout out that there are a few arms here I'm probably not going to get to. I like Schwellenbach, obviously, if the weather cooperates. Talented young arm for Atlanta. Similarly priced to Mania, you're going to get him lower owned. Someone I'll be mixing in. Michael Wacha against the White Sox. The White Sox offense has come around a bit. Wacha's been stellar, though. No issues playing him, and I thought he'd be more popular. So seeing him single digits on both sites, definitely appealing to me. One I'm not so excited about, actually two in a row I'm not so excited about. First, Uvalde against Baltimore. Obviously, a little bit pricier than a lot of these other arms we're talking about. Not a great matchup against the Orioles. And yeah, his K metrics have actually come down a little bit. Usually known as a high K arm, he's down below 1.0 K per IP. Then Tanner Bibby as well. I mean, I like the kid. He's been impressive this season, but tough matchup here against the Padres. He's been hittable lately, so I'm starting at 12. I'm skipping Uvalde and Bibby. Corbin Burns against Texas. I mean, I don't know, kind of a pay up to be contrarian type spot, especially on FanDuel. I do like him at 5%. Obviously, he has plenty of upside. I mean, his K metrics have come down a bit. Probably the highest foreplay on the slate, though, if we're being honest. I already talked about Mania. Don't mind Bassett, but again, if he's low owned, I like him. As that ownership climbs up, I'll probably kind of get away from him. Same with Castillo. Two good arms, but really like Colin Brown as chalk. Can't get away from it. Waka to me under owned. Flaherty to me under owned. And Mania currently under owned, but I do expect we see his ownership continue to climb. So yeah, let's get over to stacks now, and I will start with Jose's question. But just to wrap up pitching, I see Trey in the cut in here. Welcome, Trey. I really do like Flaherty. Obviously, Toronto, pretty good offense, but yeah, I mean, there's a reason they're selling at the deadline. They've been underperforming. Flaherty's been excellent at home, on the road. Not a terrible park for pitchers either, although it is indoors. Actually, like that neutral weather, like 70 to 80 degrees, that's on the pitcher side today if we're talking about the slate in relative terms, because a lot of these games are outdoors where it's 80 plus degrees. So I like Flaherty. Plenty of reason to. I mean, he's been excellent, and the main reason for me is just the ownership. Way too low, in my opinion. Look at that K per IP, too. I mean, 1.11. He's ahead of arms like Bassett, Mania, Burns, etc. So I do like Uvalde. But yeah, let's move on to stacks now. First and foremost, I mean, it is what it is. We got to talk about cores. And if we jump over to the daily plug, we could see scrolling. We can see both the Giants and the Rockies did make our top three. I haven't refreshed the data since a lot of the lineups came out, but yeah, now they're top two. And it's interesting. I mean, Kyle Harrison, talented young arm. He's been volatile. He's actually pitched well. I think he's pitched against the Rockies twice this season against them, but obviously third time, probably not favorable for the pitcher. Coming out of the break too, young arm. A lot of these vets know how to manage the time off. It'll be interesting to see how the young arms do. Not really that that's something I'm diving into super deep, but I do like the Rockies here because if we're sorting by ownership, they're way down, like floating out the back half of the top 10 on both sites. Boston, San Fran, Texas, Mets, Houston, Seattle, all ahead of them on both sides. So really do like the Rockies here. And again, Harrison's good. It's just excellent hitting conditions, 81 plus degrees, near 35% humidity there in Colorado, which is usually pretty dry. So lots of reasons to like bats and cores. If they were super chalky, I'd probably get away from it. But honestly, at lower ownership, it's something I like. The Giants are going to be more popular. They do have the highest implied total on the board. But again, I mean, they're not the most popular stack on both sides. On FanDuel, though, I mean, if you can get different with the rest of your lineup, they're super underpriced. I mean, I was looking at this stack earlier. You get guys like Soler and Conforto and Yastrzemski all below 3K over there, which is just ridiculous. So I'm definitely going to get to some San Fran. Just keep in mind, you want to get a lower owned arm in there, maybe a Sonny Gray, or someone like Michael Wacha, I guess. Whoever stays below 10% on FanDuel if you're stacking up Giants, because they are super popular. On DK, you could get different with your other three spots, playing a secondary stack, or just make sure, again, that you're getting lower owned arms. I do like San Fran here. It's tough for me to say they're not good chalk. I have no interest in either arm in that game. But yeah, I mean, they're top of the model for a reason. I think it was a 21% boost they were getting in terms of weather today because of the humidity. So yeah, tough not to like them. Um, we can talk about the Dodgers next. Did write them up. So Pavetta's been good. This is like Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, sometimes he's excellent, sometimes he's terrible. Coming off two starts where he had double-digit Ks, but two of his last three, he's allowed four earned runs. And against a team like the Dodgers, who obviously has a ton of upside in that lineup, even with bets out, Pavetta tends to struggle against lefties. I think his splits have leveled out a bit over the past year or so, but still something we like to keep in mind. And I think if we're sorting by batters, yeah, pretty confident saying Otani's going to be the highest OFNX rated play on the board, higher rated than some of the arms on the slate. Just tough not to like him here against Pavetta if you could find a way to afford him. I like him as part of a Dodgers stack or a one-off, but again, he is chalky. That's the type of bat I'm very comfortable eating as chalk. But the Dodgers, very low owned compared to what their upside is here. I think people see the game logs for Pavetta. They see these high scores and they don't really want to go against him. But he's been better in Fenway for the most part. And yeah, I mean, in spite of getting a ton of strikeouts right now, he's also allowing a lot of power. I think over a 1.5 home run per nine for him. So yeah, definitely like Dodgers bats if you can get to them. Favor the lefties slightly, but obviously guys like Hernandez, Pages, Will Smith, all excellent plays from the right side as well. Um, who was it that brought up the Royals? I'll shout you out here, Chris. Yeah, so Royals ranking fourth in the model today on the main slate. You see the five there because one of the earlier games has the four. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, really solid ISO rating. Again, Chris Flexen, he's been better than expected. This is a guy who pitches to contact though, gets a lot of ground balls. So if he's not finding his spots, I mean, he is super hittable, which is kind of what you look for in DFS. You look for that high ceiling. So definitely find getting with some Royals. Similar to Pavetta, his splits have leveled out, but I do favor the lefties. So get to Massey, gets to Pascatino, Frazier leading off, solid one off today, dirt cheap. Definitely going to get some ownership. And then we come to pause. Excuse me. We get to the Angels here. Um, I'm a little bit surprised they're where they're at just because I don't love the lineup, but they do have guys like Pilar, Ward, Drury, who all hit lefties really well. Don't mind Neto; he's dirt cheap, or not dirt cheap, but he's pretty damn cheap. Against JP Sears, who's another arm who could get strikeouts, but also allows a lot of power. Coming off three straight quality starts, though, so I'm really not rushing to get to them. More popular than the Dodgers. I'd much rather go to the Dodgers if I could find the salary, but I mean, I get it. Sears is volatile, definitely allows some of those cheap righties to look good given their potential upside. Yankees here against Eflin. They've struggled against Eflin. This lineup's banged up. Soto Judge, obviously good plays. Ben Rice has really emerged as kind of their third best hitter. I don't mind Austin Wells. If you do decide to stack the Yankees, they are at home here. Obviously, favorable hitting conditions in Yankee Stadium. Eflin coming out of the break's been solid though. Not crazy about it, but if they stay sub 30%, I mean that's another stack we should probably be looking at. Guardians next. I mean sub 15% on both sides. To me, that's absolutely insane. Waldron's been okay, not something I'm really fearing. And then two more I wanted to talk about. So the model doesn't love them, but the Mets and the A's today to me are the two stacks I'll kind of tout as liking a little bit better than the data. So Edward Cabrera for the Marlins. I know the Mets are showing kind of a lower team total, but that should keep their ownership reasonable. And they're still getting love here because Cabrera is allowing 2.5 home runs per nine innings. So you're probably going to get two or three home runs out of this Mets lineup, knock on wood. They're affordable. Francisco Alvarez, one of my favorite bats to home run tonight. I made the same call the other night. Didn't work out, but someone I'm constantly going back to. Yeah, really 1 through 6, 7 in this order. Iglesias has been good, and I mean McNeil and Bader are affordable if you want to get a little bit lower owned with your Met stacks. But that's one team I really like. Then the other is actually the Athletics. They broke the last slate before the break. Lawrence Butler hit 3 home runs. He's leading off again, only 3K on DK. Maybe the best value play on the slate. He's going to be super popular, but he should be. JJ Bleday in the outfield there as well. Too cheap for his upside against Griffin Canning, who's another guy who just allows a ton of home runs. Looking here, he's allowed a home run in pretty much like 9 of his last 10 outings. Just a guy who does get hit really hard. This A's team, super underrated, super underpriced as well. So just a lot of reason for me to like them. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm cutting off today. I like the A's and Mets more than the model does. I think the Dodgers and Rockies are under-owned. I don't mind eating some Giants chalk, albeit a little bit over-owned. Royals look fine. Angels probably not going to get there much, but Yankees and Cleveland again, both a little bit under-owned, given what we should expect out of them. So yeah, let's see what else we have here. Uh, Yeah, shouts out to the Discord. The cover photo here, we had a hilarious picture of Freddie Freeman that looks like a mugshot. I don't know who follows tennis or the Olympics, but they just took all their pictures. If you get a chance, check out those on Twitter. It looks like every professional tennis pro is getting booked for DUI or something because all of their pictures look like mugshots. It's absolutely hilarious. Terrible lighting. Just I don't know what they're thinking, but yeah, Freddie can join that club if he wants. Looking at this cover photo here, but yeah, going back to the Dodgers again. Other than Otani, Otani is always popular. He's always going to be popular. They're kind of underowned. Freeman definitely the second best bat in that stack. 7.20 if index rating, 4% owned on both sites, and a lot cheaper too. So tough to fit both. But I like both of them a lot as one offs if you can't get to that full Dodgers stack. But again, low owned. I mean, under owned. If you're going to cheaper arms like Mania, Brown, something like that, you're getting a ton of upside with the low owned Dodgers stack that could certainly put up as many runs as any offense in baseball. But yeah, guys, get your questions in. I'm going to refresh some of the data here, check out any other lineups that have come out, look for any kind of weird nuances. And I do want to check into what Kevin Roth is saying about the weather in Atlanta. So yeah, I usually lean on Roth, but I mean, he tends to get conservative this time of year, understandably so. He takes a lot of crap when he's wrong. He's saying adding that a pop-up storm pregame is going over the ballpark. That could trigger a late start, which, if it happens, increases the risk later in the game. Um, yeah, so if there's a delay, he thinks there's going to be a storm in late. If the game starts on time, there's probably no issues. They probably get it in without a delay and just deal with light rain. But certainly something to keep an eye on, especially knowing that we're interested in Sonny Gray as a low-owned arm. And I'm also fine getting to some Schwellenbach as a value arm if he stays lower owned than guys like Mania, Michael Waka, etc. Pretty logical pivot there. Um, but yeah, guys, I mean, we covered most of it. Definitely like the righties for the Rockies, the lefties for the Dodgers, but don't discriminate in either regard. And then the lefties are profiling really well for the Giants, but I mean, guys like Soler, Ramos, probably their most likely bats to homer are actually on the right side. So lots to like there for the Giants. If you're getting to them as chalk, just make sure you're getting different with your arms. Flaherty, another guy low on today. I mean, you could really use the plug today to kind of nail down a nice lineup that's going to give you, I don't know, enough low ownership to climb a leaderboard if things go your way. All right. Let's see what we got here. So, Chris, the lineup builder gave him 88% of Colorado five-man stack. So, yeah, I mean, you definitely have to play a bunch of them. I played them. They're in one of my single entry lineups today, five-man Colorado stack with some A's one-offs. And yeah, Matt asking if they could refresh the model on the back end. Matt, it should update every 10 minutes or so. Shouts out Power here as well. Yeah, NFL right around the corner. Starting to hear some preseason news and rumblings, things like that. Obviously, one of the biggest sports in DFS, regardless of which sites you like to play on. Brown and Toglia or Sears and Otani? That's interesting. Usually we don't do two for twos, but I got some time. I don't like Sears, but I do love Otani, obviously. I'd have to go Brown and Toglia, honestly. Um, Otherwise, maybe try to find 1,300 for Manaya. I would rather go Manaya Otani than I would or Toglia Brown, but I'm going to have to go with the Brown and Toglia side. What else we got going here? I didn't talk much about Corbin Burns. I did briefly, but yeah, I do like him. But as the most expensive arm in the slate, I mean, I understand why he's low on. Texas, pretty good offense, really good hitter park there as well. Guardians and Padres underowned in my opinion. Not much interest in either arm there in spite of their talent. And then I do like Jack Flaherty. Um, Obviously, he's in the plug, so no surprise there. But probably lower owned than he should be. Mets and A's are kind of my sneaky stacks tonight. Otherwise, I pretty much agree with the model. Just not going to get a ton of Angels against Sears. Yeah, I mean he's striking out a ton of guys. I'm not all that impressed by the Angels lineup, but I mean I don't know, tough to trust. So I mean I'll say this: if you're in like one of those contests with like 20,000 people, go with Sears Otani. If you're in something smaller, single entry, three max, something like that, then go with the Brown Tugly option. I think it's safer. But yeah, I mean, you got to roll the dice in those huge contests. So Sears Otani, maybe knowing that Sears is K upside if things go his way. What else we got going on? Um, Chris here giving me some crap as Red Sox Yankees rivalry tends to do. Duran won the nice MVP. I will say this though: Soto had more RBIs for the AL than Duran did. Maybe he was robbed of the MVP, but and yeah, you could say he's the better cleanup hitter. Actually, that's an All-Star game comment, right? Because he's leading off today, and I'm in this slate's like tunnel vision mode right now, so it's tough for me to think of other lineups. But yeah, I mean, he's been awesome. He's no Aaron Judge though. I mean, Judge is putting up Barry Bonds numbers, but Yankees really only have 2.5 good hitters right now, so I can't really talk much beyond him. So I'll toot the Judge horn where I can. What else we got going on? Oh, another interesting fact: Yankees have the third easiest schedule in the second half of the season. I think Boston's second or third toughest. Guardians, another team I'm expecting to regress a lot. Just they've had really cupcake schedules to start the year, and things kind of flip in the second half. So um, let's keep that in mind. But yeah, another 5 minutes or so here. Yeah, Courtney, do I like a Detroit stack? Let me take a look at the lineup because honestly, it matters how many lefties they have. Like, I love Colt Keith. He's been excellent. I'd even use him as a one-off. Riley Green. Uh, it would take me kind of a lot to get there, if we're being honest. Um, but if you're paying up twice a pitcher and your three one-offs are like Otani, Judge, and Duran or something, then I don't mind them. But it would have to be high-risk, large field contests. Like they're kind of down the list for me. I'm curious what the model has them at. Probably very low, maybe the worst on the slate. I always like Detroit more than the field, but yeah, not the best spot here against Bassett, especially in Toronto where he tends to pitch really well. But if you go to Detroit, make sure it's the lefties because those are the guys that I'd be keying in on. Bassett splits are pretty severe. Yeah, same on FanDuel. I mean, don't love them, but if everything else is outstanding, like you're paying him a pitcher and for the best bats otherwise, then fine. But again, large field, high risk contests only. If you're playing single entry, something small field, probably wouldn't go there. Um, yeah, if you want to go cheap, I like Oakland. I'm curious if anyone's playing them. Yeah, they're getting popular on TK. All right, I thought I was sharp there, but I mean the ownership's come up more than maybe I'm comfortable with. But they're just so damn cheap. Like Lawrence, Butler, kind of the one-off of the day. I mean, if you guys want a couple home run calls, real quick, I would say I'll go with. I'm gonna keep saying Francisco Alvarez. I like him for the Mets. Uh, Vinny Pasquantino for the Royals, and then I'll pick two Coors bats. I'll go. I'll try to find weirder ones. Patrick Bailey for the Giants, and then give me Toglia batting seventh for the Rockies. He seems to homer every slate, and he's always under owned because he bats low in the order. So don't really love him as much in DFS, but you do get multi-position eligibility on FanDuel. But as a home run bet, don't mind him. But yeah, Red Sox, and I didn't talk about the Red Sox much, but Gavin Stone hasn't been great. So definitely fine going to them here, coming off back-to-back starts where he's allowed 4 earned runs. I don't know if he's pitching pitches or what. I mean, he faced Philly and Arizona, two good offenses, but he has regressed dramatically over his last few outings. So it tends to happen with young arms. They come in, they look good, league makes adjustments, then it's the guys who can kind of adjust back that tend to thrive. Unless you're Paul Skeens, no adjustments necessary. But yeah, Stone's kind of regressing right now. Three GPP pitchers on FanDuel. I got you. So yeah, sorting by ownership on FanDuel, I would go Flaherty, 6% owned, Manaya, 4% owned, Waka, 5% owned. Those three, love that range. Waka, Flaherty, Manaya on FanDuel, all sub 6% owned. And affordable. I mean, affordable enough. But yeah, make sure Manaya is starting. I keep seeing Quintana, Manaya. I think it's Manaya now. I'm pretty confident it is. We have him in, which is usually enough, but I'm seeing him in on a couple other sites as well. So it was Quintana for like 2 hours, which was weird. Um, I think that's pretty much it, guys. Again, like the video, subscribe, helps us get more free content out to you. Check the links in the description below. Access to the model, very affordable. We also have the lineup builder that Chris mentioned, very affordable. I'm someone who hands bills, but I still like to use the lineup builder just to kind of see what it's putting out. Loving the Rockies today. Very tough to get away from them. Definitely going to make sure I have some Rocky stacks in my exposures. Um, yeah, I think that's about it, guys. Definitely appreciate everyone tuning in. About a half hour to lock. Make sure you get your lineups in. Keep an eye on that weather in Atlanta. I think pitchers should be fine, but the one spot we need to monitor. But otherwise, yeah, let's crush tonight. Hope to see a bunch of screenshots in the Discord. Take care, everyone.